Hi, I'm Mr. Wahlberg, and I'm glad you're here. Today we are in Unit 2 of the Hellenistic and Roman eras, and we are in Part 2, that of Stoicism. We have 3 objectives today. By the end of this class, you should be able to summarize Seneca's contributions to Stoicism. You should consider how Stoicism may be used by modern people, and you should read and analyze a section of Seneca's letter on liberal and vocational studies. Let's begin first with a discussion of who is Seneca. Seneca was an ancient Roman. He lived in modern-day Spain in the outskirts of the Roman Empire from about 4 BC through 65 AD. So he was a contemporary of Jesus, although they never met and were unaware of each other during Jesus' earthly life. His older brother was named Galileo, who dismissed an accusation brought against St. Paul in Corinth. And so Seneca's older brother is mentioned in Acts 18, verses 12 through 17. Seneca was a tutor and advisor to Emperor Nero. Nero was the one who famously led the first Christian persecution in 67 AD, killing thousands of Christians and sowing general disorder by the end of his reign. Seneca was a playwright specializing in tragedies, 8 to 10 of which still survive today, but he's mostly known for his work in ethical philosophy known as Stoicism. What is Stoicism? Stoicism is an approach to life that teaches that virtue is based in knowledge, and it's the highest type of good in the world. Wise people live in harmony with divine reason, which governs our nature, and Stoics tried to be indifferent to good or bad happenings, as well as to pleasure and to pain. Stoicism was founded by a philosopher named Zeno, a wealthy merchant who lost everything in a tragic shipwreck. Financially ruined, Zeno became a follower of Socrates' teachings, which he further developed into a new ethical philosophy. The Stoicism was convinced. Zeno was convinced that serenity is attained through the 4 cardinal virtues: justice, temperance, practical wisdom, and prudence, and courage. Justice is treating others with fairness, even when we want revenge. Temperance is self-restraint and moderation. Practical wisdom, also known as prudence, is choosing the right action at the right time, and courage is acting with integrity when it's difficult. Living a life of these virtues made a person an excellent human being. Originally, Zeno's followers were referred to as Zenonians, but Zeno gathered a big porch area in Athens' Agora, known as the Stoa Poikli, I think is how you say it, and eventually became known as the Stoics, named after that porch. Stoics fasted from good things like nice clothes and good food, just like the Epicureans did. But Stoics were more involved in society than Epicureans, who saw themselves as removed from society. Seneca, his role in Stoicism. So let's talk about Seneca in particular. So we've met Zeno, but we're focusing on Seneca, who's the star of our episode today. The classical world believed that the goddess of luck spun a wheel of fortune to randomly bring good or bad fortune to humans. Our life circumstances were all a matter of choice. It was all a matter of chance, just a spin of the wheel, like a Wheel of Fortune game show, but like that with your life. Seneca was a huge advocate of only focusing on what we could control. We can't control our fortune. It's out of our hands, but we can control our response to fortuna. Inner joy is greater than the pleasures of the flesh. Furthermore, Stoics believed that the trials we face make us into better men and women. This idea jives with the modern sensibility too. When Nietzsche claimed that what doesn't kill me makes me stronger, Seneca put it more appropriate to his age, where he said, God does not make a spoiled pet of man. He tests him, hardens him, and fits him for his own service. Now let's talk about how Stoicism would play out in normal life or in everyday life, or applied Stoicism. And it's often used with a technique known as negative visualization, where Seneca says that misfortune weighs more heavily on people who expect nothing but fortune. The people who think that life should be perfect and are easily upset, and they're frankly pretty hard to please. To prepare for tragedy, the Stoics embraced a technique known as negative visualization. Now here's how it works. Visualize your life and how it could be so much worse. This may include the possibilities of losing friends or family or a house or your car or money or wealth or health, etc. Then be thankful for what you have that hasn't been lost yet. Consider the idea of a glass half full or half empty. A Stoic would say, I'm just grateful to have a glass. In real life, it may look like this. A parent who's not negatively visualizing parenthood may not be all that present to his or her child. He might think, well, it's just another day. Tomorrow, I'll see my child again. But one who is negatively visualizing parenting could be very present to his or her child, thinking that today isn't just another day and that tomorrow I may not see my child again. This takes us to how tranquility, internal tranquility, is obtained and controlled. The ancient Stoics identified basically two types of situations: the things we can control and the things we cannot control. Modern Stoicism turns this dichotomy into the trichotomy of control. There are some things over which I have complete control. For instance, the goals I set for myself are entirely my goals. Secondly, there are some things over which I have some control. For instance, whether or not the goal is attained. And then there are some things that I cannot control at all, like the traffic or the weather. There's nothing that I can do about that. Let's put it in a practical sense and consider that of a tennis player. There are controllable things: setting the goal of practicing for 3 hours, 6 times a week. That's a pretty rigorous practice schedule, but it's what a person could set a goal for themselves. There are some controllable things: conditioning, how well a person trains, their physical health, whether or not they actually practice every day. And there are some things that are uncontrollable: whether or not the sun is shining, or it rains, or the talents of the other players, the people that are in your bracket with you. You don't have control over those things. So a person shouldn't set a goal that they can't control at all. Players or teams shouldn't set a goal such as to win a championship, because you can't control your environment. You can't control your injuries or the other teams or the referees, etc. It's far better to make a goal that you are going to train to the best of your abilities and to go into that match in your best position to win, but you can't actually say your goal is to win. You could just control what you can control. We often worry or think too much about what other people think about us. It takes away our internal peace. It makes us anxious. Seneca encouraged people to purposefully do things to build up a healthy disrespect of human opinions. Things like wearing a coarse cloak or ill-fitting clothing. He writes, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" That comes from Seneca's Moral Letters to Lucilius. That kind of discipline is a good method to create detachment from other people's opinions, but it also creates our resiliency to unfortunate events. People who take on like big Lenten penances like cold showers or sleeping on the floor often find that other kind of discomforts don't bother them so much, and it's as if they are practicing this stoic sense of detachment. Okay, that is your 7-minute introduction into Stoicism. It's time to go move on to actually reading the pieces from Seneca and applying it from there. Thanks. Have a great day.